Greetings, princesses. This is Olive Swan, and I am finally getting to the completion of this challenge. I know I started it probably 2 or 3 years ago. So many things have happened in between. Won't waste your time talking about that now. I have several prophets left, and their stories are quite short, so I will share several of them right now and the rest later. These prophets that I'm about to share with you are prophets that were during the time before the 70-year exile of Babylon. So they're not prophets that spoke after the fact of Babylonian captivity. All of these prophets spoke and wrote their books or had a scribe write their books before captivity. So keep that in mind when you are reading these books, that they are truly prophets of God, because what they were given from God, a word from the Lord, came to pass. How I read these prophets was, as you know, I'm a lifelong student of ancient languages, and I listened to their stories in Hebrew while looking at them in English. Actually, I use the Peshitta, which is the Eastern text, standard text of the East. And so today I'll be reading key verses from each book, and I'll actually be reading from the King James Version. So the first prophet we're going to review is Amos. So when I think of the book of Amos, I think of punishment. God was so angry with so many nations. You're reading the accounts of their behavior, their actions, their idolatry, and this really incites the Lord. So I'll be reading a few key passages from Amos now. Now the scriptures I'm sharing you probably have heard before, and or I chose them because they stood out to me in this season of my life. They mean something, and hopefully they'll mean something to you too. So Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets. What that means is that the Lord is not just going to do something in the earth. Now, yes, he surprises us as individuals in relationship with him. But when he does a great work in the earth, especially when it comes to judging a nation, whether they're going to be greatly blessed or greatly cursed, he usually informs his prophets, his mouthpieces first, to alert the world or those nations at that time. And so this is a further testimony of the Lord, which he said we would be testimonies or witnesses of him, because he told us, or he told our ancestors, or he told the prophets first before he did it. So none can claim some other God did it, it was a natural occurrence, or the nations came up with this. No, this is God controlling the hearts of the king and turning it whichever way he wishes. The next key verse I would like to read is chapter 5, verse 26, and it says, but ye, now he's talking to those who have replaced him for an idol, for another God, for another Lord. But ye have the tabernacle of your Molech, and Sheun, your images, and the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. Meaning God did not make these gods for them to serve. God did not make this tabernacle for them to worship in. God did not make this star for their nation, but yet they're choosing to idolize these things. Now, throughout Scripture, 3 times in this book, we find God saying this same exact phrase: seek ye me, and ye shall live. In other words, search for him, spend time with him, do things with him, and you will live. You have the best life, besides having the best life, but you will live. You won't perish with the nations when he comes to judge them. Okay, I'm not going to read this one, but you can read 6:10, and it talks about how the people have turned in their hearts and told other people not to mention the name of the Lord. That's interesting. Chapter 7 goes into the idea of a plumb line. And if you're not into construction, then you'll have no idea what that is. Not that I am either, but I know of it for several reasons. One is, of course, I looked it up. But a while back, if you're familiar with some of my works, I wrote The Plumb Line on Femininity, and that's actually based on Amos 7, where God says he's going to send a plumb line, which is basically a measuring line to make sure things are straight and level. So in a sense, God is saying, I'm going to send a standard in the midst of my people. And so God gave me this idea of a plumb line when he unfolded the information in that book. We'll end with chapter 9, verse 6. And I chose that because it just sounds so beautifully and poetically and wonderfully describing the Lord. And the whole chapter of 9 goes into how God has scattered his people, and of course it's going to bring back the remnant of Jacob, and it goes a little bit into that. But let me just read this verse to you. It's so beautiful. It is he that buildeth his stories in the heavens, and hath founded his troop in the earth. He that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord, or Yahuwah, is his name.